doesn't work that way. I wish it did.
Oh, okay.
You know, like the clubs are inundated with people who want to play, so they don't need to advertise. They don't need to call. They don't need you. You need them. You need to hustle a gig.
Okay.
So.
Hey, welcome to another episode of the Beyond Business Podcast. If you haven't done so yet, please take the time to smash that subscribe button right underneath this video. And whatever platforms that you are on social media, give us a like, give us a follow. It means something to us. So today's guest is a professor, a Fulbright scholar, internationally recognized guitarist, filmmaker, and educator. From New Jersey to Decatur to Brazil and beyond, he has built a career that bridges music, education, culture, and human connection. Through his work at Millikan University and around the world, he's impacted countless students and musicians while exploring what it truly means to leave a lasting legacy. It is my pleasure to welcome to the podcast and welcome back to the States, Mr. Mark Tonelli. I'm saying it right? Tonelli?
Perfect.
Okay. Well, thanks for joining me. Yeah, this is going to be cool. Again, I just welcomed him back from the States because we established that pretty much right when I hit him up to come on this podcast, he was not even in the States. So let's do this, just so we can, we'll jump back in life a little bit, but why were you in Brazil?
I was there actually for a couple of different reasons.
Okay.
One reason was to promote my album, Brasiliana, and my film, Brasiliana the film. So that was one of the reasons. So I did a television appearance there just a few days ago, played a gig, and then traveled to another city and did a workshop and a gig there at the university, and then did a gig. I have a former student who was a professor there at this other city, the other university. He invited me to come. I also wrote the preface to his book, and so the whole conversation started with, I would love to get you a copy of the book that you wrote the preface to. That was like his master's thesis, and I was on his committee, and I said that would be really cool. He said it'd be really cool to give it to you in person. Why don't you come here? And so we set it up, and so I went and
that's in Brazil.
Yeah, in a city called Montes Claros, which means like
a former student of yours is a professor in Brazil.
Yeah, he was a student when I was a visiting professor in Brazil.
Oh,
he was doing an internship with me, basically.
Okay,
as part of his master's degree, and then we stayed in touch. He asked me to serve on his committee for his master's thesis defense, which was a book that he wrote about a guitar technique called sweep picking, applied to Brazilian music. It was a really cool concept, and I loved working with him on that. And then he turned the thesis into a book.
Okay.
That was published by his university's press, and he got the job at the university. And so I went up there to.
Oh, that's just cool. I mean, a full circle moment too, right?
That was pretty cool. Yeah, to see a former student become a professor, and then a colleague basically.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So those are two of the reasons I went. The other reason, the most important reason, was to visit my wife. She lives in Brazil.
Okay.
And so.
So you have a history of, you've spent some time in Brazil.
I have spent in the last couple of years about a quarter to a third of the year in Brazil.
Okay.
So my time is divided between here and the U.S. and in Brazil every year.
That's amazing. So I picked out Jersey. Did you grow up there?
I did.
Okay. So you're from Jersey.
I'm actually from Rome, Italy. I was born in Rome, Italy. My dad is Italian. He's from Rome. My mom's American. She moved to Italy. She went to visit after graduating from high school, fell in love with Rome. Not hard to do.
I was going to say it seems pretty doable.
Yeah, exactly. And she met my dad. My dad was a guard at the Vatican. He worked for the Vatican.
Okay.
And they were set up on a blind date. And then a couple years later got married. A couple years later had me.
Okay.
And then they made a decision to move back to the U.S. And my mom's family is from New Jersey. So I grew up in northern New Jersey, very close to New York City, about a 15-minute drive from New York City.
Oh, okay. All right. So whenever you were in school, high school, okay?
Yeah.
What kind of kid were you? Were you like I'll throw some categories out there, and jock, nerd, class clown, introvert, Pick yourself out. How would you box yourself up looking back if you would see you in high school? What would you say? This dude is a...
It was kind of a mix. I was definitely what we would call a burnout. I had long hair.
Oh yeah,
I was into the hard rock,
I forget
heavy metal.
that class, dude.
That was me. I played guitar.
Yeah.
So I was in a bunch of rock bands. So that was. But I also played soccer.
Okay.
And tennis.
Okay.
Ran track. So I was really athletic.
All right.
So I kind of did all those. I kind of straddled a couple of different lines there.
Yeah. So, how young were you when you fell in love with or figured out that you could fall in love with the guitar? Or was that your first instrument, or is that your instrument of choice?
It was concurrent with the violin. I started playing both at the same time. But the story goes that my grandma, who played organ, and she was the only person in the family who could read music. And so I would see her playing the organ, and I think she must have seen me watching her play and read the music, and I was fascinated. I'm like, wow, how do you look at those little dots on the paper and know that translates into something? I think that currently. Right? Well, we can talk about that. I can help you with that. And she must have noticed. I don't know. She had some intuition. She said, "Mark, I'm going to get you a special gift for your birthday," and that was right before I turned 7. I was like, "Okay, Grandma," and it seemed like an eternity before it finally came, because I was thinking about what is this thing going to be. And then when it arrived, it was like this box, about triangle shaped, maybe 3 feet long. So what's in there?
Yeah, you're like, curiosity's peaking now.
It was crazy, right? And it was a half-size acoustic guitar. And so I was like, huh, okay.
Half-size, like children's? Or?
Exactly, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like a children's-sized guitar.
Yeah.
So, I was 7 at the time, and so she was, astute enough to know that a big guitar would have been too much for me.
Sure.
An adult-sized guitar would have been too big for me. So, I thought it was pretty cool when I first got it, and just, banged around on it, and then made a little noise, and it just kind of sat there, or I would make noise with it occasionally. And after about a year, my mom said, "Hey, Mark, why don't you take lessons?" And I said, "Okay." I just kind of went with the flow. I was a pretty easygoing kid. And so I started taking lessons, and I just had an inclination for it.
Right.
It came fairly easy to me, and that's not to say I haven't had to work at music. Even people with innate talent or an ability, you have to work pretty hard.
Right.
If you want to, nurture
Master
that talent.
it.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I wouldn't say I've ever mastered the instrument. I don't think any professional musician thinks that, but you're always working on it.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I started taking lessons, and a couple of years after I was taking lessons, my teacher called one night. I didn't know it was him. The phone rang. My mom picked up the phone, and I could hear her saying, "Uh-huh, mm-hmm, okay." This went on for a couple of minutes, and I'm like, I wonder who that was. So she hung up. She said, "Mark, that was your guitar teacher." And I was 10 at the time. And she said, "He said you're his best student, and he would like you to study more formal music. He would like you to study classical music and get a classical guitar." So I was like, okay. So my parents went out. They bought a classical guitar for me, and I started studying classical music, which was much harder than
It's a completely different instrument?
It can be.
Okay.
Yeah. So the acoustic guitar has steel strings,
okay,
and the classical guitar typically has nylon strings.
Oh, okay.
So it produces a different tone, different sound, different timbre. You play it differently. It really is a whole different. Everything is different. We'll say. The basics are still the same, of course. It's still a 6-string instrument and so on. But so I did that for a couple of years, and those were really intense years of study, from like age 10 to about 12.
Right.
And then just coincidentally, ironically, luckily, serendipitously, my teacher moved away right around the time when I bought an electric guitar. And so I stopped studying classical music and started learning Def Leppard and Kiss songs.
For sure. Stop getting a haircut.
Yeah, exactly. That's what happened, basically.
Well, and I guess that's it. Yeah, if you hit the sweet spot of like high school, it's like, the garage bands I remember, no one was really very good. You know what I mean? So to have someone who, this guy's practiced for a while. I got a personal story.
There's your guitar there.
Yeah, so my mom, when I was younger, was just anti-football. She didn't want me to get hurt. Okay, I was a baseball player. All my friends were playing football. This was JFL, not high school. This was like younger. Matter of fact, 8th birthday, she got me that.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
Yeah, and it's hanging there because I had a guy come in who I had heard was a musician. So I went and got it out of storage. I took it to the place there in Kings Plaza or Fairview Plaza.
Sound check.
Went to sound check, seen Terry in there, I believe.
Terry. Yeah.
And I said, hey, check it out. I said, here's what I got. I go, this thing hasn't been out of this box since the 80s.
Really?
That's the 85 Alvarez or something.
Really? You have an 85?
Yeah, so when I come
Alvarez
back,
on the
he
wall.
goes, do you want like 10 other guitars? And I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, I mean, you don't play, right? I go, no. He goes, do you want, I go, well, it's valuable? And I said, well, then no, I don't want to. No, I want to keep it. It's my parents gave it to me.
Yeah, sentimental.
And they were broke. We were not, I can't say we were broke, but we were just regular. So to get something cool like that, now I'm going, I mean, it probably wasn't worth that then, but either way, I don't have any idea what I'm getting into. I tell him, do whatever needs to be done. He's like, oh, these strings, they don't even make these. I'm like, just do your thing. I didn't know I was going to come back to like a $650. He like filed some stuff down, polished. Like,
he really worked on
it. He got it ready to go. Yeah. Well, that's when I came back and he gets it out and presents it. I was like, oh, sweet. That's when he was like, you want to, I go, oh, I don't know how to play it. That's when he goes, wait, do you want some others? Yeah. You want to pick some instruments out? And I was like, nah. But yeah, cool. So yeah, and then high school came and I played football. And I tried guitar lessons and I was like, man, but I'm one of the people who, I mean, you made a real good point. You can have a knack for something and that doesn't it might make it easier for you to learn than me, but you still have to constantly work to master a craft or try to. And I felt, and I do feel like that. So I try to do with I have grandkids now, but with my son, my daughter, it's get them a keyboard, get them a guitar, something along the way to go, let's just see if this happens. You know what I mean?
That's really smart.
Who knows, you know, which I've struck out.
Well,
at least on that only. Yeah. Only, just on that. I go, okay, we didn't have a secret rock star here that I was kept in the closet and didn't let him play.
But you exposed them to something that, is going to mean something to them.
For sure.
The way.
He don't even know it, but he's got a guitar hanging on the wall. Oh, no, it was just something that was cool.
Oh, that's cool.
So, did you go to college for something music related?
Yeah, I have 3 music degrees.
But you leave high school and you're going to study music?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to be a medical doctor for years.
Right.
Then I wanted to be an architect, and I started taking mechanical drawing classes. For different reasons, none of those things worked out.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time I was around 16 or 17, when you start having to make those decisions about what to do with your life or what you're going to study in college, the one thing that I had been doing for almost 10 years at that point was play guitar.
Right.
I'd taken lessons. I played violin for 4 years as well. And I played in the school orchestra. I knew how to read music. I had played in a bunch of different bands. And I even had some gigs, some paying gigs by the time I was 16 or 17. So I was like, when everything else fell away, that was what was left, was music. And I thought, actually, I really enjoy doing this. And then once I got the idea in my head that I could do this for a living, I couldn't get it out.
Right. I could do my passion forever.
Exactly.
And make a living. That sounds crazy, right?
Well, it is crazy. And you do have to be a little bit crazy to be a musician.
For sure.
I think that you do, because it's not an easy life. And there isn't a direct path. It's not like you get a degree in music and then
go to your job.
There's a career fair, there's internships, unless you're doing music business or teaching or something where there is a licensure and you're moving into a more structured career. If you're an independent musician, you create the career yourself. And so I always say, you don't choose music chooses you. And if it does choose you, then you are probably the type of person that's going to find a way to make it work. You're not going to fail in this career. You're going to get up each day and think, how am I going to have this independent music career? You're going to do whatever it takes. You're going to be driven. And that's always been me.
How old were you the first time I don't care if the public crowd was 10 people or 50 or 100 or a talent show or what, but when you sat there, sang and played with people, how old were you?
I was 9. I was just thinking about this yesterday, actually. It's funny that you mentioned that. So I have this story all ready for you.
Yeah, let's go. That's extremely young, first of all.
Yeah.
I don't to have like the cojones to be like, oh, let's go.
Yeah, no, it's exactly right. I was thinking at the time, I didn't really know what I was getting myself into. And that's what we do in life. We just sort of take chances and then we sort of figure it out along the way.
And then see how deep it is.
Exactly, yeah. So I was 9. I had been taking lessons for a year at that point. And we had every year the 4th grade at number 3 school in Belleville, New Jersey, where I grew up, does a play about the history of New Jersey.
Okay.
And so that year, it was our turn. I was in 4th grade. And somehow playing the song Turkey in the Straw tied in to the show, tied into the play, the
right.
play we did. So I just walked out on stage by myself with my little half-size acoustic guitar that my grandma gave me 2 years earlier and played Turkey in the Straw by myself on the stage, with an auditorium full of kids and parents and grandparents and siblings. And I had just learned a new note at that time. A was on the 5th fret of the 1st string. That was a new note. It was a high note for me. It was like, this is kind of risky. Am I going to do it? And I went out and I nailed that note.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, I could do this.
Yes.
And then people applaud and they come up afterwards. And that's the first time you get a taste of the rush of being on stage and people appreciating what you're doing. And that's kind of an addictive experience.
Oh, that's 100%. Right? So are you old? I mean, obviously it's a long time ago, but are you old enough to register like being nervous because all the people?
I was nervous.
Oh, you were?
Yeah.
Okay. You know what I mean? I didn't know if it was just like, they told me to come play, so I'm going to come play. If you're in high school, it's like, oh my gosh, I don't want to be that guy and I don't want to mess up. You know what I mean?
By the time I was in high school, I had already played a lot. I had already been on stage a lot,
Yeah.
But I think most musicians would be kidding themselves if they said they're not nervous before going out. That's part of what makes you perform well. It's that nervous energy that you then channel into something positive.
Yeah.
As I said, I was an easygoing kid, so I was like, I don't remember how it came about. I think my teacher knew I was taking lessons, and I think she invited me.
Right.
Like, oh, Mark, it would be nice to have you play this solo guitar piece in front of the whole school, And I'm like,
right.
I didn't realize what that was going to be like until I walked out. I remember being backstage and seeing everybody out there and thinking, wow, this is pretty nerve-wracking, But then I nailed it, and I'm like, wow.
Just me, huh?
Yeah, it was just me. Like the whole stage was cleared. It was just me in the middle of the stage, playing this solo guitar piece as a 9-year-old. I'm sure lots of musicians have a similar story. I'm not unique in that sense.
Oh no,
that's
when
you
really
get bitten
cool
by the bug.
Heck yeah. That, like you're saying, the nerves, the rush, Hey everybody, I want to take a quick second to let you know that the Beyond Business Studio swag store is officially open. Click the link in the description or scan this QR code to get your apparel game on point and rep Beyond Business. We got hats, hoodies, t-shirts, tank tops, and everything else. Several logos to choose from. Scan and customize yours today. I also want to shout out the partners who help make Beyond Business possible. First up is Dubby Energy Drink. If you're grinding, creating, training, or just need clean energy without the crash, Dubby is my go-to. No sugar, no spikes, no nonsense. Just focus, endurance, and clarity. Head over to dubby.gg and use code BeyondBiz at checkout to get 10% off your order. That's BeyondBiz. Support the show and fuel the hustle at the same time. Oakwood Screen Printing. These gals are the real deal when it comes to custom apparel. Direct to film, silk screening, embroidering, heat transferring, you name it, they do it. And they don't just put it on clothing, they put it on anything. Whether you're in need of a small custom run or a massive order, Oakwood Screen Printing handles it all. Fast, professional, and top-tier quality. If you've got a brand, a business, a team, or an idea, they'll bring it to life. Check them out at oakwoodscreenprinting.com. And finally, Midwest Lightning Rods, protecting homes, businesses, and critical infrastructures from lightning strikes across the Midwest. This isn't just another contractor. This is decades of experience, code-compliant systems, and real protection where it matters most. When lightning strikes, preparation makes the difference. Learn about how you can become part of the community that's been protected by MLR at lightningstrikes-weprotect.com. As always, when you support these companies, you're supporting Beyond Business. If you haven't done it yet, I urge you to hit that subscribe button right below this post and follow the Beyond Business page on all your social media platforms that you follow. Now, let's dive back into it. Okay. I must have done good.
Yeah.
It's not just my mom telling me I'm good.
Right.
They applauded. Right.
Exactly. Yeah, it's some sort of external validation, right?
You're still chasing it too, right?
So you're always looking for that next gig where you feel that rush, where you're with the right musicians at the right moment, and it all just clicks and it feels magical, and there's like this transcendent moment where you don't even feel like you feel disembodied. I think all musicians have that experience, and you're always trying to chase that. The next gig.
So have you played? Have you been? You said you don't sing.
I don't sing very well.
Okay, well, that's not your thing. Yeah. No. So have you been in several bands throughout your life, or was that kind of a thing, or it's like, no, I was in school, and I guess I don't know. Is it someone who breathes, eats, and sleeps music? Is it like, my hobby is I played in a country band for a while, played in a rock band or is that how it works at all?
I guess it depends on the person. For me, from the time I got that electric guitar, I got my first real six string, right?
Yeah, there you go.
I just was in bands all the way from 7th grade all the way through high school, all the way through senior year of high school. I was in probably 6 or 7 different bands.
Yeah.
Some were like cover bands, some were like more original. There was a band where the lead singer was the nephew of Lou Gramm from Foreigner. So we did like all Foreigner stuff. And, there was other stuff where we did like more original material. And I played in like a Kiss cover band for a while.
That's great.
So I just was always in one band or another.
Yeah.
And then I played in the jazz band in high school.
Yeah.
And so I was constantly playing music. But it was only just a hobby, really, until about 11th grade. It was just something fun to do. Right,
until something hit that goes,
Until everything else fell away.
College is, I can do this at college?
Right.
You're like, oh. So where'd you go to school? College?
I got my bachelor's degree at William Patterson University, which is in Wayne, New Jersey.
Okay.
It's in northern New Jersey, same section of New Jersey. It just happens to have one of the best jazz programs in the country. And by that point, I needed to choose either jazz or classical. There's a few programs now where you can sort of just go study rock music or pop or commercial music. At that point, there really wasn't that option.
Right.
I didn't want to study classical, but I really liked jazz. My mom had jazz records. I got a new guitar teacher after the classical one moved away, and he was more of a jazz guy. So I'm like, I really kind of like this music. And so I went into a jazz program. I actually didn't get into William Patterson. The program is very selective and keeps it to about 60 to 65 students with a certain number of spots per instrument. So when I auditioned right out of high school, I wasn't good enough to get in. And I thought, but I really want to go there. That's the school I really want to be at, because I had heard their student ensembles, and I think, wow, these guys are amazing. This is the school I want to be at. I want to be playing with these people. And so I went to another state school for a couple of years where I had some good experiences there with jazz. The jazz band teacher was pretty good. He had played with Dizzy Gillespie and all kinds of famous people, so I just sort of like happened to luck out with him. And then I had a jazz teacher who was a classical teacher, but he had played jazz as well. So I just got lucky that at this other school there was a few people who helped me prepare to re-audition a couple of years later. And I just got in by the skin of my teeth, I think, when I re-auditioned. I think they saw some potential. I hope they think now,
good
35 years later, that I was, was a
solid choice,
worthy gamble.
He's still playing.
Yeah, exactly.
Again, that's a huge accomplishment. That's a trajectory shifting moment. If you do or don't, you never know what happens if you didn't get in that second time. You know what I mean? All around. I
didn't want to have any regrets. Yeah.
I think that's great. So, when you're at college, you're learning to come teach music. Is that correct?
If you're a music education major, yes, you're majoring in how to educate others.
Yeah.
But
and that's what you were doing, right?
Well, I was doing performance.
Okay.
Actually, I started off as a theory composition, like somebody who's studying music theory and also studying composition but I didn't stick with that for very long, although I have composed a lot of music. I was a performance major, so I was learning how to be a performer. That was my degree.
Okay. So how does that turn? Okay, so you get out of college, and now it's like, now go perform?
Yeah, basically. You're not far off with that assessment, yeah. Because, I had really the best teachers that money could buy. William Patterson has an astounding jazz program very close to New York City, so all the New York City guys would come in and teach.
Oh, yeah.
But actually, most of them lived in New Jersey because it was lower taxes, lower cost of living.
Easy commute.
Yeah, and then they just commute into New York. So, I mean, we literally had some of the best faculty in the world. But at that point, mid-'90s, we're talking, music programs, not just jazz programs, but music programs that were preparing students to be performers didn't have the non-musical skills. They didn't offer courses to train you in how to turn all this, talent, all this music into a sustainable career.
Right.
And so you could graduate sounding amazing, being an incredible musician, but not knowing what the next step is. Like, okay, now I have this degree. The degree doesn't really translate into work. You can't show up to a club and say, here's my degree from William Patterson, give me a gig.
Right.
Because there's, 500 other musicians, 1,000, 10,000, who are looking to get a gig, and they don't have college degrees, and they're just as good as you, if not better. So the degree prepares you. It's worthy. It's a stepping stone to a master's degree and so on. But it doesn't guarantee any work. It's not
right.
It doesn't open doors in that sense.
Right.
You open the doors. Your entrepreneurial spirit.
Yeah.
Figuring out how to, what we say in the music business, hustle gigs, how to do that. And there's lots of ways to hustle gigs. So I kind of got interested in that, because it was hard. How do I build this career? We studied all these famous musicians like Charlie Parker, John Coltrane, Miles Davis, and they had these amazing careers. But how did they go from Charlie Parker, who's like this guy from Kansas City that nobody knows, to being like the founder of a jazz movement, or Miles Davis?
And everyone knows.
Right. How did that happen? We didn't study any of that stuff in between.
Right.
We studied all the musical stuff, but all the business stuff.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
Which is equally as important when it comes to doing anything for a living.
Absolutely.
I mean, you can have, you just nailed it. You can have all the talent in the world if you don't have anything to do with it. So your experience of kind of the struggle or the grind is what made you go, I need to figure this out and be able to teach this to people?
Well, so after I graduated with my bachelor's degree, I went straight into a master's.
Okay.
I decided I wanted to
as a
study.
performer also?
Another performance major.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was like, really beating myself up, get another performance degree because I don't know what to do. I don't have a job yet, so I'll go into graduate school.
Yeah, it was a couple more years.
Yeah, exactly. No, genuinely, I did want to study. And
sure.
I moved to another part of the country. I moved to Dallas, Texas.
Okay.
I went to the University of North Texas, which also has a renowned jazz program. I feel like I'm bragging here, but these two programs are really some of the best in the country. So I was very fortunate to get into those programs and study with great people and be surrounded by amazing students, who often are the ones that really push you,
sure.
beyond your level. And I also wanted to change the scenery. I lived in New Jersey my whole life, and so going to Texas seemed like a pretty cool idea.
It's definitely a change of scenery.
It was for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And after getting my master's degree, that's when I really, in earnest, started trying to get work. And I realized this is really hard. Like me and every other musician in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex wants to play all these same gigs. So the supply far outweighs the demand. Right?
Okay. So, and this might be dumb, but I mean, we're talking, there's people that put I guess this is before social media. So however they do it to put a call out that they need a guitar player.
It doesn't work that way. I wish it did.
Oh, okay.
The clubs are inundated with people who want to play, so they don't need to advertise. They don't need to call.
They already have their backup and their backup and their backup.
They don't need you. You need them. Right?
Oh, so you need to go get on their list.
Yeah,
huh?
exactly. You need to hustle a gig.
Okay.
Right? So
okay.
This is when I really started trying to get gigs, and I realized it was pretty hard because everybody wanted to play the same places, but there were way more musicians than there were spots for them on any given night of the week. So to break into the scene in any city takes some time. So I started doing that in Dallas, and then I started talking with other folks, like other friends, colleagues, musicians on gigs, about this phenomena, of how hard it is to land a gig. And they're like, yeah, this is really hard. I'm like, why didn't we learn about this in college? We learned all the musical stuff. Why didn't we learn all the business and entrepreneurial stuff? So I got interested in that idea, and then eventually I got my doctorate, and that was what my doctoral dissertation was about. It looked at how college jazz programs teach the non-musical skills, teach the entrepreneurship side to musicians. And so, it was a 450-page dissertation. I did interviews. I had a quantitative, survey. I interviewed faculty, graduates of programs. It was pretty comprehensive.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot. And what I learned is that when students were required to take these courses, and I specifically looked at schools that required students to take these entrepreneurship courses so that they could start figuring out how to transform musical ability into a sustainable career, that they actually valued the instruction and wanted more of it. Felt like we're not getting enough. I want more of this. Yeah, I'm getting a great musical education, but I'm not learning how to transform that into work. So give me more of these classes.
Yeah. Well, because the unfortunate part, this is so parallel to it's business.
Totally.
Yeah. So everything you're saying is just oh yeah, that's the same way with athletes. It's the same way with, you know what I mean?
They're transferable skills.
Yeah.
Totally.
And the bad part is you don't know as a young person, you don't know what you don't know until you need it. So, you know what I mean? So you're out there going, okay, I'm not just keep going back to school. There's something more to this. That's impressive, man. So what, you get your doctorate, and then so do you create some type of course study that needs to happen at different places and people bite onto it? Or
you could do that. You could create online content. People do that. There's a whole,
or I guess, yeah, how do you turn your doctorate into making happen what you wrote your paper on?
Yeah.
I guess.
Great question. The doctorate essentially allows you, that's a door opener into academia. Most colleges want you to have a terminal degree to get a full-time job. If you want to teach part-time, you probably only need a master's, in some cases just a bachelor's degree. But I knew I wanted to teach full-time. And here's a little twist that's going to throw this conversation to a whole different direction. I was in the Army at the time when I was getting my doctorate. And I played in an Army band at West Point. West Point's the United States Military Academy.
Yeah.
I was stationed there for 10 years in the West Point band, and I played guitar in the jazz band called the Jazz Knights. The Army Black Knights, so there was the Army Jazz Knights. And so I played in that band. The GI Bill paid for my doctorate, actually. All but $400. I paid $400 in one semester because I went over the... Yeah,
it's reasonable.
It was totally reasonable.
So you're 6 years into college. That means you're early 20s, and then you decide to go to the military.
Well, I had lived in, after I graduated with my master's degree, I lived in Dallas for about 5 years and just worked. Just
Gotcha.
Gigged, wrote for music magazines.
Oh, that's when you're going, I'm going to go back for my doctorate because not only do I want to do this for a living, but you have now lived the part of knowing what you don't know and seeing how hard it is. Okay, that makes even more sense. So in your 5 years there of working, is that when you decided to sign up for military? Or you're just done working, doing gigs, you're like, I'm going to go. Let me just go see the world, or whatever they say the military will do for you.
Right.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't that at all. We actually were at the height of the two wars. We were in Iraq and Afghanistan in
Desert Storm.
2004. Yeah, at that time. And so, volunteering to sign up for the military seems like crazy, like a suicide mission, right? But and so people were like, "Why are you joining the Army now?" Well, a few different reasons. At the time, my wife at the time and I had just had our first child, and I wasn't working full time. I had somewhat of the equivalent of a full-time job between my different adjunct teaching positions in different colleges around the Dallas-Fort Worth area, playing gigs, writing for music magazines, selling my compositions and stuff like that. But it didn't add up to a real, true full-time salary, and I didn't have benefits.
Right.
You need to have benefits. You need
it was a hustle.
You need a pension. Exactly.
Right.
So, a musician with my profile, somebody who has a couple of degrees, who can read music and play different styles, who can teach, although the teaching is not as important, but somebody who can kind of do what I do and have the background I had, often will go into the military or a symphony orchestra or teaching, So I wanted to keep playing.
Right.
And I was like, well, what kind of job offers a musician full-time pay, benefits, and a pension, and the opportunity to perform? And there weren't many. There was a symphony orchestra, and I didn't play a symphonic instrument, so that was off the table. There was the circus. I actually did send in an audition DVD to Cirque du Soleil when they were still around. I didn't get that job.
Really?
And then there were the military bands. So I'm like, I'm going to try to do some auditions. And right around the time I was looking, there was an opening for the West Point Band.
Uh-huh.
I got the audition, and then I went to basic training.
Yeah.
I got the audition, I got the job, I went to basic training, and then I started my job there. So I moved back to the Northeast, about an hour away from where I grew up.
Right.
So it was nice to have my parents nearby, nice for them to see their grandkids. 2 of my children were born at West Point. I was there for 10 years. And then about halfway through, I wanted to continue my education and get my doctorate. That had been a goal from the time I was in high school.
Sure.
Because I had a music teacher who was getting his doctorate from NYU and got his doctorate in piano performance. And that was inspiring to a lot of us kids
Sure.
who remember him. He passed away several years ago. And I thought, well, I want to do that too. That seems pretty cool.
Yeah.
And so I did. It was a long time goal. It was about 25 years in the making, that particular goal.
Okay.
And the Army was offering a nice GI Bill package.
Yep.
So I took advantage of it.
So why, I'm sure they wanted you to stay. You got 10 years in. Is that's when you kind of got to make a choice that you're going to do this for another 10 or get out? Is it when you got your doctorate, you got out of the military shortly thereafter?
Yeah, there were a few other competing factors which were probably too hard to
Sure.
discuss here without getting too much into the weeds. So just to sum up, yeah, I did have a decision to make.
Yeah.
I could have stayed in, but a few other factors kind of persuaded me. You know what? I think I'm gonna get out. I have my doctorate. I'm going to start applying for teaching jobs, and it took about a year, for me to finally land one, and that was Millikan University.
I'll cut this.
You're good.
So at this point, though, man, I mean, you seem like you're pretty good at not tooting your own horn, but by the time you get out of the military, you have a ridiculous portfolio.
I was pretty marketable, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, this from the schools that you went to the education that you getting your doctorate's a big deal, but to play in West Point, you've done some. Are you in your mind going, I'm surely can do this for a living now? You know what I mean? Is it like, I don't know what more I can do here other than? Was it that? I mean, was the doctorate, playing in the Army for 10 years, does it make you develop at least a confidence in going, okay, if anybody can do it, I now can do it. I mean, you can get better, but you can't achieve much more. Or did it still feel like you're going to go jump in the water again and just see how it feels once you get there? You know what I mean?
Exactly that.
Yeah.
So here's... that's a really great question, and the answer is multifaceted and super complex and would require 10 of these podcasts for me to answer you really, and
that's fair,
in a complete way. But to sort of sum up, I think if you follow your passion and do what you really want to do, the doors will open. You'll have your career. You'll I'm not explaining this the best way I could, but
you're nailing it.
If you follow your passion, good things will happen.
This is true.
So there's this interview that I saw a few times on social media where they ask Ringo Starr, obviously the drummer for the Beatles, right? What advice do you have for musicians? And he says, do what you want to do. He said, basically, once I decided I wanted to play music full time, everything else kind of worked out, which is really understating the case for Ringo Starr, right?
Right, yeah.
And he said it sort of in a humorous way. He's trying to make a joke, but he's telling the truth.
Right.
Do what you want to do, follow your passion, and you'll figure out how to make it work. You'll figure out what you need to do to make this music career happen, because once music sort of gets its claws in you, it doesn't let go.
Right.
And if it's chosen you, because you don't choose it, if it's chosen you, there's no option. There's no failure. There's no possibility of failing. You're just going to figure out how to make this work. And so, like, that's always been my credo, I guess. Like, I'm just going to do what I want to do and then figure out how to make it work. And then as a teacher, for the last 10 years full time, I also take my students along with me on these journeys and on these adventures. So if I'm doing something new, then I try to bring that back into the classroom. So my trips to Brazil and things like that have been, brought my students into the fold. And so, yeah, when I got out of the Army, it was like the next chapter of life was starting, and that was going to be teaching. And I didn't know what that was going to be like, but that's what I wanted to do. I'm like, that's what I've done my whole life. I don't know another way,
Right.
You just kind of, but not everybody does that,
No.
and that's okay, and that's fair. Everybody has to do what feels right for them. But for me, just doing what I want to do seems to have worked out because I kind of figure out how to make it work.
Well, and again, I think you when you were just describing it and going, this is how people do it. When music gets you, this is what happens with. I don't think it's everyone. I think you are just a determined person. You're just a entrepreneur who knows how to play the hell out of a guitar and got educated in your craft. And you know what I mean?
Sure.
I would love to, I would love to be able to say that's probably the case for everyone, but there's so many people who get scared to follow their passion, which I hate it. I mean, I love that we're finally in almost the day and age to where we even are teaching our kids to explore careers. Don't dive in and see where you can, which one can you be at for 30 years the quickest? Like, don't do that. Go see if you can enjoy a little bit. Right. I tell my kids now, it's like whenever it's like complaining about, coworkers or work environment and all that. I'm like, so what do you need to do to change that? It would be start your own company and employ people. And, there's no incentives. Hire people and put incentives out there. Let people compete for money. And it's just cool to see the wheels turn. My parents would have never said that. You know what I mean? I grew up in the 80s and 90s to where it was like they just wanted a check on Friday.
Right. Yeah, right. That was
because we needed them to get one. Right. No, it's just really cool. So your first teaching gig out of the Army was
Millikan University.
Oh, that brought you here.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you know anything about Millikan before you accepted, or why the heck would you? Right.
No, I didn't know. Later, I realized I had heard a little bit about it when I reached back into the recesses of my brain. But at the time, I remember, I saw the job announcement. There's the job bulletin boards and job forums for musicians looking for work and in higher education. So I subscribed to a bunch of those, and they would send me, job vacancies. And so the Millikan one popped up. And I wasn't exactly qualified for the position. It was a little bit out of my area. They wanted me to teach classical guitar. Well, I hadn't played classical guitar since I was 12, right? Right. So I'm like, well, I'll let them tell me no. So I applied for the position, and I didn't hear anything for about a month. And then Perry Rask, who was my colleague and only retired last year, was the search committee chair. And he said, we have your materials here. Do you have any classical stuff? Could you provide us with some classical stuff? And at that point, I had already applied to like 100 jobs during that year. Some higher education, some corporate, some just other types of jobs. Just trying anything.
Get a gig.
Try to land a gig. I had a family to support, 3 children, and so I thought, well, yeah, maybe I could sort of try to pull the wool over their eyes and say, yeah, I could put together some classical pieces. And I thought about it, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to sound like crap if I try to do that. They're going to see right through that. I'm like, at this point, what do I have to lose? And so I just wrote back. I said, I don't have any classical music at all. I haven't played classical guitar since I was 12. Nope, sorry, I don't have anything like that for you. So I just thought honesty is the best policy. And he wrote back and he said, okay, we'd like to bring you in for a campus visit. So I was like, wow, I wonder what happened, because they wanted a classical / a jazz guitarist, and I'm not the classical part, right? So
they looked at your portfolio, bro.
we in the end, what happened?
They're like, this guy could do anything.
No, they did like a lot of stuff that you've mentioned. They liked the fact that I had the entrepreneurship stuff, because they knew that's an important part of a musician's training these days. They saw that I had a varied background. I played for a year on cruise ships, so they liked that I had done that. They liked that I had played in an Army band. I wrote music. I wrote music for big bands. I have a lot of, I have a varied portfolio. It's true. Now I can say that about myself because I'm not bragging. I'm really saying this is what's happened.
Right.
So
it was intentional. It was your whole life.
Yeah. I mean, I just did what I wanted to do,
That's amazing.
And it wound up being this portfolio that was interesting to them. And in the end, we sort of, they changed the parameters a little bit. They said, okay, maybe they were having a hard time finding a guy who could do both jazz and classical equally. It's pretty hard, to master both, or not master. I already said you can't do that.
I get it, though.
To be really proficient, to be really an expert in both of those styles. It's just not enough hours in the day to do it. So they said, well, we'll just find one or the other, and then we'll hire an adjunct to teach the other. So they found me. I was the jazz guy, and then we just have had a classical specialist since then who teaches the classical side. He's a part-time, and I'm the full-time guy that runs the program, all of the guitar program. So that was the sort of division of labor that we came up with in the end, and that has worked. And to answer your initial question, no, I didn't know anything about Milliken, but I remember going on YouTube and seeing this ad that they had, and later I found out they hired not a publicity company. What do you call it?
Like a marketing?
Like a marketing firm, yeah, to help make them make this video. And I was like, wow, this place looks amazing. Where is this place? It's in Decatur, Illinois. Where's that? And at the time, I was living in Kansas City.
Oh, okay.
I'm like, it's not that far from here. So I drove to the campus visit, stayed for a couple days, did the various activities that you have to do. It's actually kind of a grind doing a campus visit. You teach several classes, you teach private lessons, you meet with the administrators.
Oh, they want to see. It's to see what you can do.
Oh yeah. You're like basically, it's an audition.
Yeah.
And you also perform. You have to do a little mini concert. I mean, they really put you through the ringer. And I have since been on several search committees where I'm evaluating potential candidates, and we put them through that same process. And I had already been on some campus visits before that, so I kind of knew what the deal was. And then they offered me the job just a few days later. So I've been here, since then. And so no, I didn't know what Milliken was about, but I can honestly say 10 years later, I'm still as impressed with Milliken as I was when I first found out about it, because I have some of the greatest colleagues in the world who are experts at what they do.
Yeah.
They really care about their students. We have great students who are really bright, creative. You can get a fabulous education at Milliken. Yes, it's in the middle of Decatur, which is not the most well-known city in the country.
Right.
It's in central Illinois, which is not the most well-known region of the country. Like when I tell people where I'm from, where I live, they're like, "Where's that?" And I didn't even know where it was.
Milliken is just a gem, though. Right?
It really is. It's like this could totally come off the wrong way, but I'll try it anyway. It's sort of like maybe a diamond in the rough, an oasis in the desert. I don't know the best way to say that. Just a place that has Decatur sort of had the industrial history, several decades ago, and has been trying to recover from that. Milliken is just an amazing place that just happens to be in a city that isn't as well known, like a Chicago or a New York or something like that.
It's a they've really done. They're continuing to make that campus just look better and better. It's so cool. I mean, it's neat. It's been there so that was the place where we would go to. I've seen a couple at Kirkland there. I've seen a couple
plays or shows.
Yeah, I was trying. Comedian Rodney Carrington came once. He is a comedian, but he plays the guitar and does writes his own songs. He's a stand-up comic, but he has a guitar with him when he does it. And he came there and played. And then around Halloween, there's this drum thing. A bunch of percussionists. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's the Halloween concert.
Okay.
That's a big deal.
It is a big deal.
They do a great job.
Yeah.
I went and took my kids a couple times. And
that's a cool deal.
Yeah, it is really cool.
They got some neat stuff going on there. So you've been teaching there for 10 years? Okay.
Yep. This August will be the start of year 11.
Okay. And how long will you stay? You have any plans?
I have no plans
to
leave.
I'm good.
Yeah. No, I mean, I have great colleagues. My boss, Brian Justison, is just the greatest, very supportive. My trips to Brazil, I had to take some leave for that. I was awarded a sabbatical also. He's been supportive of all of that. And I have great students, great colleagues.
Okay, so let's get to that. When did you start working on, what came, which is the cart and which is the horse here? What was first, the movie or the album?
The album was first. I'll give you the quick rundown.
Okay.
My mom had jazz records when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
She also had Brazilian records. There's an overlap between Brazilian musical styles and jazz.
Okay.
So like samba and bossa nova are basically like, especially bossa nova is basically like Brazilian jazz. That
Okay.
might be the easiest way to sum it up. So she had some records like that. That kind of got me interested a little bit. Then when I started studying jazz more formally with a teacher, that got me more interested. And I was hearing these songs and thinking, these songs are really beautiful. They don't sound like, Frank Sinatra and Ella Fitzgerald, the sort of typical jazz things, George Gershwin that I was studying.
Right.
They had their own kind of unique feel or swing. I'm like, what is this music, this beautiful music? Then I started seeing images of, like what you have here on the graphic of Pão de Açúcar. That's what this thing is called there in the background.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Christ Redeemers. I started seeing these images and thinking, wow, this place looks really beautiful. And they have beautiful music too. And then I started hearing the lyrics in Portuguese, and was like hit me like a thunderbolt, really. I was like, what is this beautiful language and beautiful music and beautiful nature, the visual aspect of Brazil? Who are these people?
At this point, you have never been there.
I've never been
You
there.
just fell in love with the music.
Fell in love with
Everything, the
everything.
culture without even
Culture.
diving in.
Nope.
Yeah.
I'm like, I got to go to this place one day. And I said that for like 30 years. I'm going to go to this place one day. And then it was about 7 years ago, right around this time. I remember it was around June when my daughter said, I think she was 11 at the time. She said 10 or 11. She said, Dad, we're using Duolingo, and I want you to start using Duolingo and practice with me or something like that. And I said, okay. She had been bugging me for a while, and I wanted to please her, so
Sure.
eventually I said, okay. And to use Duolingo, you have to pick a language.
Yes.
You can't just go in there
Can't just
and
do
you
it.
look
Yeah.
around.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, I always wanted to study Portuguese. Why not? And I just sort of clicked on it without even really thinking about it, and also without realizing that click was about to change my life in a really dramatic way. And I was there for the next 3 hours, I'm totally immersed, and I was like, gato bebe leite, which means the cat drinks milk. Like, I loved that I could say that, right?
Yeah.
And I haven't stopped studying. I haven't missed a day of study in 7 years.
A week later, you don't speak nothing but Portuguese to your daughter, and she's like, Dad, I did it for 20 minutes the first day.
That's right. She's like, I created a monster.
Yeah, what
am
is
I doing
going on here? English, please. So you how long, what was before you went there your first time? Okay, you said that was 7 years ago when you went there the first time.
That was when I started studying the language.
Oh, okay.
And that led to me being more interested in the culture.
So at some point you're going, I'm just going to take a trip.
Yeah. No, well, I thought, how am I going to go there? I don't know anybody.
Right.
Why would I go there other than just to visit? Where would I go? And then some colleagues of mine at Millikan did a presentation on Fulbright, which is like the government's international exchange program. And they sponsor people. They'll give you a grant to go teach in another country or do an artistic project.
Oh, so
or
you're
research.
saying, let me go work. Let me get a gig.
Yeah, here's my ticket to go to Brazil.
Brilliant.
So I applied. I got the grant and went there for the first time in 2022. And was there for 5 months as a visiting professor at a university in a city called Uberlândia, which is in a state called Minas Gerais, which is one of the larger Brazilian states. It's in the southeast. It's close to Rio and São Paulo.
Now, are you fluent in Portuguese?
Yeah, I can.
Oh, okay.
I speak Portuguese fluently, and I loved it. I fell in love with it from the moment we got out of the airport and into the city, and I was like,
This is it.
wow.
How cool is that? You've been waiting so long, and to go, it's better than I imagined.
You said
That
it
is
perfectly.
crazy.
I could never have imagined.
Yeah, I imagined it
how
being
good-
perfect, and
Yeah,
it's better.
Exactly. How
That's-
can you make it? How can you improve on perfect? Well, Brazil did
Just
that.
go.
So I just kept going back.
What were the
time and
people
time.
like? I mean, accepting, and it was great, or was it different, or I don't know.
I got to be careful not to get emotional here if you ask me about the people, because they're what really they're what really keeps me going back.
Really?
I mean, you see these iconic images of Brazil, like Pão de Açúcar. You see the Christ the Redeemer statue. You see Carnival and samba, and people in the streets and football and all.
Yeah,
those are all
yeah.
cool and part of Brazil, and the beach, right? The Amazon. That is, of course, all part of Brazil. But the real part of Brazil, like the real meat and potatoes, is the people who are just wonderful. They're so affectionate. They're so warm. They're so loving. They're very, very accepting. They like to talk. You just fall in love with them. That's basically what happened.
Yeah.
And so that kept me going back. So, you learn about the culture, you taste the delicious food, the weather is beautiful, and then you really fall in love with the people.
Right.
And so that's what kept me going back. And I just got back on Monday for my 15th time in Brazil in the last 4 years. And time 13 was when I made the album. And I applied for a second Fulbright grant. I got that. Took a sabbatical from Millikan and made the album. And that
You made it there?
I made it there with Brazilian musicians. And the most of the songs that are on the album are about my experiences in Brazil, either living there, they're about particular people or places, or they're about sort of my relationship with the country, like the longing that I have for it when I'm back in the U.S. So it's kind of a collection of stories about this love affair that I have with Brazil.
And so on this album, is it a band? Or is it
It's a quartet on most of the album, and on one track there's a pianist, so that becomes a quintet. But
okay.
quartet.
And you wrote all the music?
Yeah. There's 9 songs. They're all original compositions.
Yeah. When you say composition, that means you wrote the actual music part of the music.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I wrote
the dots. You put the dots.
I put the dots on the paper. Almost 45 years ago I didn't understand how that worked.
Now you do it.
I understand how it works now.
I get it. Well, that's just impressive. So, have you had prior albums, or is this like
That's my
this
fourth
is my
album.
Oh,
That's my
okay.
fourth album.
Okay.
Yes.
And is it kind of just a passion thing, or do you feel like they catch on? I guess that's it. Do you sell 100,000 copies of these things, or how's that work? I don't know. Okay, I don't know. Or you're like the goal. I wasn't trying to do it to get rich. I was doing it because
it's what I do.
Yeah, I got 10 songs in my head.
I mean, that's it. And it sounds really simplistic, but that's really the answer. Like,
okay.
I'm a musician, so I make music.
Pretty simple.
Yeah, that's
yeah, that's cool.
I mean, when you have songs that you want to record, you want to document that part of your career. You want to document what you're feeling at that moment. The songs are a reflection of what you're feeling and thinking, of where you are, creatively at that point. You put them on a CD. You put them on a physical disc, or streaming or whatever. And of course, my stuff is on Spotify and Apple Music and all the streaming platforms.
So you've been there, you said 15 times?
Yeah.
And so you have a wife there.
Yes.
That you got to go back. No. So my question, I guess, is you only 2 of those, or 1 or 2 of those were for you're actually working while you're there. The other ones, when you were there recording your album, you weren't there teaching also, right?
I was actually.
Okay.
The Fulbright grant, I was given the grant specifically to make this album. Yeah, I applied with this project in mind. It's like a 50-page document I wound up sending to them with a portfolio and, answering lots of essay questions, about how you would function in a foreign culture. Because I had already done 1 Fulbright, so I was, a sort of a known commodity, so they had a little bit more confidence in me. A lot of people don't get a second Fulbright. A lot of people don't even get 1. So I just consider myself literally the luckiest guy in the world to have gotten even 1. 2 is like lightning striking twice.
Right.
So, somebody at the Fulbright Commission in Brazil must like me, because they keep saying, "Yeah, come back."
Yeah, come back.
Yeah. And so, what was your question? Ask you the question again.
What was the question?
What it was?
I feel like you kind of answered it. I don't remember what the hell
I probably
it was.
already did. Yeah.
So will you?
Oh no, I know what your question was. Why did I go back? What?
Oh,
how many times?
Yeah. Are you doing it? Yeah. Did you have gigs every time, or was some of them trips like, no, this is vacation kind of?
Some of them were, just to spend time with my wife.
Yeah.
Yes. About half of them were either to teach or perform or record.
Okay.
I also did some recruiting for Milliken. On one of the trips, I established an agreement for an exchange of students between Milliken and the university where I was teaching the first time I went there, and that was a historic agreement. It was the first time Milliken had an agreement with a Brazilian university, so that was pretty cool.
Oh, that is
and on
cool.
that particular trip, I took a group of students.
Oh.
I formed the Milliken University Brazilian Ensemble. We went to Brazil. We were there for 10 days. We did 5 performances throughout the city where I had done my teaching the year before. We did cultural events, we did workshops.
Life experience.
It was great for my students. So like I said, if I'm going to do something pretty cool and follow my passion, I'm going to try to take my students with me, like literally with me.
Yeah, I'm not going to just take some videos for them. They're going to try to be there.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was a passion of mine it was a goal of mine to bring students to Brazil, and so I did quite a bit of.
Do you document your trips at all? Like, do you have anybody following you around with a camera ever?
Me, I documented them.
Yeah.
But that actually brings me to the next point, which was you asked about the album and the film in the order. So this is a good segue.
So 2022, or when did this album get written, or when did it come out?
It came out in March of this year. So
okay, so this movie is brand new.
This movie is brand new. The album is brand new. The album was recorded in fall of 2025, but I brought it back here and mixed it with Kevin Guarnieri at Milliken.
Okay.
So it's sort of this cross-cultural, this intercultural collaborative project in that sense. And then I started doing promotion for it. While I was in Brazil making the album, I thought exactly what your question was, which was, did you document your trips? Well, I decided I was going to try to document, at least get some like little video clips behind the scenes stuff in the studio. You got to do that when you release an album. You got to do that with anything these days, right? You got to have somebody there recording. So one of the musicians recommended this particular videographer. I thought he was just a videographer. Turns out he was a lot more than that.
Filmmaker over
there. He was actually a filmmaker
who
who had been working as an editor on films for about 15 years. Netflix, Prime Video, HBO. He had a long list of credits. This guy was the real deal. I didn't realize that he had this sort of background, but he came in, he filmed every song and all the B-reel stuff of us talking in between in the studio.
Heck yeah.
And he also came and recorded the rehearsal the day before. So he had all this footage. And then after the recording session, he said, let's do an interview with you, Mark. You released a couple little interview clips as part of the promotion for the album. And we did about a 45-minute interview, and he got really interested in my background and how I got into Brazilian music and culture, how I came there, the many trips I had made. This most recent project was making an album about my experiences in Brazil. He really got interested in that. And, I went back to the U.S. the next week after being there for 2 months. And he kept sending me messages on WhatsApp. He's like, hey, Mark, you remember that album you talked about in the interview? I know you're at your parents' house right now. I was there visiting them in New Jersey. He's like, do you think that album is there? Do you think you could maybe take a little video of just you holding the album and send it to me? I'm like, sure. So I did that. And he said, hey, Mark, you're still at your parents' house, right? Do you think you could just take a little video of you sort of just walking down the street and maybe like walking into your parents' house? Sure, I did that.
Oh, the whole time he is creating something.
Yeah.
And you're going, okay, I don't know what's going on here. But
I just thought, just these are part of these little interview clips. And eventually he approached me and said, what do you think about me making a documentary about you making this album and like your background and your relationship with Brazil?
By the way, I already have everything. Right? I mean, at that point, he had...
Not even close, actually. No, we were just the tip of the iceberg.
Oh, so when you said it's like, okay, well, now let's actually record.
Yeah. we worked on the documentary part for 6 months. The music was already recorded.
Sure.
But all the visual, all the image, all the background... which mixes also not just me in Brazil, me here in the U.S., me at Milliken, in different places. It's also images of famous Brazilian musicians. Depending on what I say in the interview, he might show a Brazilian musician. So there's a lot of historical context there as well. It's a really cool film. It's a 50-minute film. We worked on it for 6 months together.
Where can people see it?
They can't see it yet, because it's on the film festival circuit.
Oh,
and I'm learning about this. I know a lot about the music world, but the film world is almost a totally different animal. It's not like you make a film and then you send it out to reviewers or whatever. You enter it into film festivals, and then you see how it does. First of all, you see if it gets into the festival. That's already an accomplishment. So if you see those laurel wreaths like you can see here on the...
That means it was
accepted into a festival. And that's...
Step one.
Yeah, because sometimes you're always, not sometimes, you're always competing with people globally. Thousands of people wanting to get in. To this festival, the laurel wreath that's on there is the Madrid Indie Film Festival in Madrid, Spain. And there was something, like 13,000 applicants or something like that, and they accepted like 8% or something. So to get into the festival in the first place is really an accomplishment. And then they'll show your film, and then it could potentially win an award. And if the bigger the festival, the more media attention it attracts, and then that leads to like an offer for streaming.
Yeah,
like PBS.
Do you
Netflix.
Go to these festivals?
You can,
right?
You can, but it's expensive. To do this globe trotting, I'd love to have discretionary funds to do that. If we applied to some fairly large festivals in South America and in Europe, and a couple here in the U.S. as well, we applied to about 10 festivals around the world. If it gets into some of the larger ones, we might, the director and I might try to go.
Yeah,
to one or more of them. We'll see. We'll see what the budget's like.
Right. Well, and it's just neat that you can. I hope everything goes great, but you don't need that to happen. You know what I mean? Like, you don't need to have this a top viewer on Netflix. You're like, it's made. The project is made. Of course you want it to do good, but what I mean is you still, as much as you do it for a living, like this part of it seems almost like everything with you is music related. So this is as hobby as it gets because you're teaching people is what you do, right?
Yeah, I'm
educator.
I'm kind of split down the middle.
Okay.
Because I'm a performance educator, so I teach the performance side of things.
Yeah.
So, to be a specialist as a teacher, to be considered a specialist, you kind of have to be a specialist in the area you're teaching. So I still perform a lot. I'm performing pretty much every week. But I'm, always bringing those lessons from the bandstand, as we say in music, to the classroom. So,
right.
And that gives me a certain legitimacy as well. If I just weren't performing anymore, but I was teaching other people how to perform, they might say, what skills do you possess to be in a position of authority to be teaching us about something that you yourself aren't doing? So it's important to me to keep performing.
Right.
To, I guess, address what you said about the film. For me, it's like gravy, and I just couldn't have imagined anything like that happening. And I'm incredibly grateful that Thiago, the director, took an interest in me, and that and made this film, and sort of plunged me into this whole world and this whole other way of being that I hadn't thought about. So for me, it's just but you just, as I said, is you follow your passion, and sort of people notice,
right,
and help you along this way on your journey. So that's kind of what happened with the film. So
yeah, another one of your just really lucky.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, I want to ask a couple things. This is just about just as the in the teaching world, because you're dealing with youngsters and different people that come from different places that all share a passion of music, which that's awesome. What's something that you feel like that your students, what's the best lesson you've learned from being a teacher from your students that they probably think you teach them? But
wow, that's a great question.
Because going from the career that you had, it's not the same as playing a lot in a lot of bands and doing a lot of studies and whatnot. It's still completely different from going, okay, now this group is my responsibility for the next couple hours today and the next couple years. And I guess what's something that once you jumped in and you had the seat and you were running a program, what's something that you, I guess, unexpected even, that you maybe quickly learned about kids, about people, about students, about that you didn't know going in?
I had already been teaching part-time for years, and so I had a fair amount of experience working with students. Working with them in a full-time capacity, that is different. That is a different feel and a different set of responsibilities. Young people tend to struggle with time management, and so that's one thing that I have helped my students with. It's things that we as older adults, because they're adults but they're young adults, it's things that seem natural to us are obvious to us or not obvious to younger people. So, help them develop some structure and discipline in their lives, and they need that. And that's really rewarding when you see them, when you see that transformation take place, when you see them take responsibility for themselves. I had a class that I taught for years called Arts Cafe, and it was a student-run venture. And Millikan is a university that's renowned for what we call student-run ventures, basically businesses that students run that they take as an actual course. And that's one of the ways that, to answer an earlier question, I sort of made the leap from, okay, I got this doctorate in which I specialized in entrepreneurship and music programs. How do I then implement that as a faculty member? That's why I did it. I created that course. And helped students learn to be entrepreneurial by running a venue. That's what Arts Cafe was. It was a venue. And I taught that course for 7 years. And each semester, they would program 3 to 5 shows all across the art spectrum: music, theater, dance, martial arts, culinary arts. The way I always said to them, if something can be done to a high level, it can be considered an art. And so they did some really innovative programming over those years, and they ran the whole thing. And so there was, like a student leader who was the artistic director, and then there was a marketing manager and an accounting manager and so on. It was great to watch them step into those roles and develop and grow. And some of them, I remember one student came to me and said, if it weren't for me being the leader of Arts Cafe, I wouldn't be nearly as organized as I am. This class is forcing me to be organized, which is then spilling over into other areas of my life. So that was, I didn't expect him to say that, but so those are gratifying moments. When you're working with young people.
I'm going to read a quote back to you. As teachers, we spend a lot of time wondering what impact we're having. Sometimes the answer arrives years later. When did you first realize that your impact was bigger than music? Other than, of course, you just said, I guess you kind of just touched on that a little bit as you're helping create life structure. But I guess just overall, as a music lover, music guy, when was it that even if it was when you were just part-time teaching, when was it that you go, oh, this is way bigger than music? I mean, even though in your mind you go, music is all I got, it's all I do. It's like, well, yeah, it is, but, you have structured a life too, so that's not music. You know what I mean? I guess, when was it that you just looked at students and go, okay, this is bigger than showing them what to do with the strings on that thing?
I think it comes back to the entrepreneurship question. When I started performing and realizing it's not just about keep your head down, spend hours a day in the practice room and, the phone will just start ringing. It doesn't work that way most of the time. Even for people who it looks like it worked that way, they really were in the trenches for a long time.
Nobody broadcast that part.
Exactly.
Right?
It's not the glamorous part, right? But that's probably almost definitively what happened for any artist that you see that is successful. Lady Gaga spent years in clubs, like, honing her image before she became who she is.
Right.
So
and she didn't just learn how to sing.
I mean, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right.
So that's when it hit me that this is more than just teaching students to play the instrument. It's teaching them to have a sustainable career, to pay the rent, put food on the table, teaching them how to teach themselves to go out and get work.
Right.
To be creative, to be entrepreneurial.
That's great. That is great. It is so important. I mean, it is, again, it's one of them, you don't know you need it. You don't know you don't have it till you need it. Like you're paving, lives. It's really cool. You're doing good.
Thanks.
I mean, it's awesome. I mean, so What accomplishment means more to you that you've achieved than any standing ovation or any, handshake and, I guess, diploma given or whatever, degree given? What's the moment for you? You've had some moments.
If you're talking about my career, I could probably pick a few out. If you're talking about just life, it would be my children.
Sure. I was a test. I was making sure you said that.
I
was going to add that in later.
Yeah, right. I love it.
Didn't look like it wasn't your voice that said my kids.
Oh, that's funny.
But yeah, I mean, I guess, professionally or educationally or whatever. Or is it like nothing beats a standing ovation, period?
I've gotten some of those. That is a really great feeling. And here's the thing about music. And I've seen this repeated in other fields, athletes, business people, celebrities. You think, once I get this accomplishment, I'll have arrived, and then I'll really be legitimate. And then you arrive, and it's not what you think it was going to be like. When I released my first album, or when I got my first article published, or when I got my first degree, or when I got my doctorate, or when I got the job in the Jazz Nights. All of these were major milestones in my career that I thought, now people are really going to notice and think, this guy is amazing, and things are going to start to happen. Or the things that I wanted to happen, whatever those things were at the time. You get to all of these milestones and you realize you're just constantly chasing milestones, one after the other. There isn't really a point of arrival. It's really more just about the journey and than it is about the destination, because there is no destination. And as soon as you think, I've arrived, you definitely haven't arrived, and the music will humble you.
Right.
And so if you don't stay humble and try to be open to learning new things and sort of be this lifelong learner that we often say in education, be a lifelong learner, the music will find a way to humble you and help you to develop a more open mindset and a more exploratory mindset, and to keep searching. So there isn't one particular moment where I felt like, this is it, because it seems like one moment outdoes the next one, but it never produces that sense of accomplishment. Like, yes, this is it. Like I imagine if I were hired to be like the guitarist on a famous, on a talk show, Jimmy Fallon or whatever.
Right.
I think, that's it. Now everybody's going to know who I am.
I'm one of the Roots.
Yeah, exactly. Right? I'm Roots. That would be pretty cool, and I wouldn't turn that gig down. But I bet that I would think, okay, what's next?
Right.
So there's always a what's next. You never really quite arrive. And I guess that's also part of the fun of it. It can be frustrating sometimes too when you realize, because you look at people who, when you're younger, you look at people who
have achieved
those things that you want to achieve, and you think, wow, that must be amazing. And then you get there, and it doesn't really quite have the thrill that you imagined it to have.
Right.
And so there isn't one particular moment I can point to, but there's many where I can say that was really cool.
Then
what comes next?
Right. No, it's solid. So when your final concert is over, your final class has been taught, what do you hope that people that know you will say about Mark?
Well, I hope they feel like I was a person that cared about them. That's what I think. If I want my students to walk away thinking anything about me, I think I want them to feel like I cared about them. I cared about their success, them as people. Another saying we have in education is, students don't care about you until they know how much you care. And I don't get it quite right, but students don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. That's it. It's like, so you could be the deepest expert on any field, be incredibly intellectual, well-studied, well-read, but that doesn't matter to students. They don't really care. They do want you to be competent as a professor, but they want to know that you care about them. So if people felt like I cared about them and they are important to me, then I will feel like I've done my job. I consider that successful.
It's really cool. I would imagine being a college teacher, it can be, or professor, I would think that you're diving in, you're dealing with young lives. A lot of them haven't been away from their families before. It's a different part of life, right? I mean, it's a whole new part of life. So I'm sure it goes well beyond, I mean, I think you would have to almost end up turning to a part-time therapist, mentor.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, it was so much bigger than even entrepreneurship and music. It's still, those two are huge, but, the life that they are learning and the guidance that they're getting, I think that's probably, everyone can look back and go, I remember the coach. I remember the teacher. I remember you know what I mean? I feel like most people can, and I think that's the powerful thing is, the legacy that you hope is like, oh, these kids will never, ever, ever forget you, You
hit the nail on the head. You often do feel like you're wearing many different hats as a teacher, that it isn't all about teaching. Sometimes, in all truth, we complain about that because we say, we're not psychologists, we're not therapists, we're not qualified to help a student through a difficult time. We can refer them to somebody who is, but often you're sort of their first line of defense when you're away, especially if they're taking, lessons with you on an instrument, or you're their main ensemble director or something like that.
Well, they learn to value what you say.
Yeah.
So if you can give a piece of advice in their actual life, coming from somebody that they respect, and it's almost like you would be doing a disservice to go, I don't want to give. I'm not trying to give. I'm not a counselor. I'm not. Right. It's like, well, you'd be doing them a disservice because they're looking at you going, I trust you. Just tell me the obvious thing I'm not seeing, or right. Whatever.
And with that trust comes.
Tell me, what comes with not being tired is going to bed.
Yeah, right.
Or whatever.
Right. And I think we do feel comfortable giving students that sort of more practical, structured advice about, just like learning how to be a student. Mm-hmm. I remember, over the years, I've had different students that have had, very serious things happen to them in their lives. They got very sick. I had a student that almost died. I had another student whose cousin committed suicide, and he just disappeared for a week. And everybody responds in different ways to these really serious things that happen to them. And because they do trust us so much, I think we are a little apprehensive to maybe give advice. We don't want to give the wrong advice,
right?
Because they trust us so much. We want to say the right thing. So we're it's a fine line.
It is a fine, yeah. Well, and it's a whole nother subject, but how you just described it, a lot of teachers, I'm sure teachers at all levels probably have to go, we don't get taught how to be therapists. They have a counselor here. But that's the same thing my police officer buddies say, the same thing. They're like, dude, we're not taking them to jail people. We're freaking therapists, de-escalators. We're doing all the things that lead up to the only thing they taught us.
Right.
We just put them in the car.
Right.
You know what I mean? But it's like going from here to here. And I think it goes, people... Yeah, I just think that's a lesson for a lot of people. Is people pay attention, people listen, people remember. If you can make someone's life a little bit better, a little bit easier, especially if it's no sweat off your back, why not do it? I mean, kindness is something that there's a lot of it in the world, but it's crazy. You said it about Brazil. I say it like I've only been to vacation spots, but you go to different parts of the world, and maybe some of them are finance, money related. They like us because we're coming to spend money in their country, right. But it is crazy how even you just described just how you fell in love with the people over there. It's like, it's amazing that we can't just love each other here. It's really a hard thing. I feel like looking at you, just step back and look at our the state of our country, even to where it is just going. What are we? It's somewhat easy to be nice. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I'm not even asking for a solution. I'm just dropping a brainstorm. When you were talking about that, I go, yeah. You got places that they don't have. They would love to come over here, but they're happy with nothing. We're mean and unhappy with everything. It drives me nuts.
No, you're so right about that. And one thing I've learned going back and forth to Brazil so many times now is that people are the same all over the place.
Right.
They have the same hopes, the same dreams, and we have more in common than are our differences. A lot of the times, the differences are between governments, they're between systems, they're
Sure.
between corporations, and what happens is the citizen gets caught in the middle. But if you go to Brazil and you talk to people there, just regular people on the street, who of course they have their preconceived ideas about what Americans are like.
Sure.
Right. And if you're, as you said, if you're just kind to them, you break down so many walls.
Yeah.
And so we can do that here in our own country. But that's what I've learned about being there, is just to be. I guess it would be inaccurate or a mischaracterization to say that Brazil taught me to be kind. I think I've been trying to be kind. For
right.
a good part of my life, but
yeah.
it reinforced a certain type of kindness or a certain warmth.
Yeah. Infectious kindness is something else. That's good.
Yeah.
Man.
So
keeps you coming back.
that's it.
Well, man, I really appreciate you coming in. I know it was kind of just like getting hit up by a stranger and going, what's going on here? But no, I just seen that you were doing some really neat stuff. I wanted to hear about it. It's impressive. You've got your track record speaks for itself. You're a humble guy, but I don't know what else you could have done so far. Yeah.
It's funny that you say that, and you're probably trying to wrap up here, but
no, it's okay.
Each time I have an accomplishment in my life, I think, a lot of the times I think I never could have imagined that happening. I wonder what I want to do next. And after going to Brazil, I really thought, wow, I really feel like I've done most of the things that I set out to do as a young person in my life, and a lot more. So I don't know what could come next. Like if I had to die now, I think I could die really with no regrets.
That is cool.
Then the film was made, and I was like, that I never imagined. I never imagined somebody
Another
saying,
thing.
yeah. And I was like, I'll take it.
Yeah.
So there's, and I just sort of feel like there's still so much more out there.
Right.
That I'm still just getting started, and there's still so much more of the journey to go.
Well, from listening to vinyl of a little bit of what is it, Brazilian jazz? Is that what it's called? Or hearing vinyl and just dreaming about maybe one day being able to see what's to this place and to go over there and do a documentary, record an album, spending now a third of your life over there, the love of your life's over there. I mean, that's like. Yeah, it was like written,
That place has been calling me for a long time,
Yeah.
and I don't know why. I have a friend who's really, he went to Spain and fell in love with the place,
Mm-hmm.
and, dreamt about it after he came back. He said he almost had to go to therapy. He was so,
Enthralled.
yeah, he was enamored with it. Another one who, these are both guitar players, who, like, something about China appealed to him. He went over there to live for a year. He thought it would get it out of his system. Nope. He had to go back for another 2 years. He thought that would get it out of his system. Nope. So he just went over there, eventually permanently moved there, married a Chinese woman. Everybody has their passion, whether it's a country or, whether it's an occupation or whatever it is. Everybody has their passion. For me, it's Brazil, and I've never been able to figure out why. But it was did literally feel like it was calling me. And when I finally got there, I felt like this is the place I was meant to be my whole life. It's
sort of
important
to pay
oddly
attention.
and
Then when the
comfortable.
universe tells you things, you listen, and sometimes it works out, right?
Totally. My wife is a genetic biologist, and so one of her, the company that she works for, that's in research and development, they produce tests, and one of the tests it produces DNA tests.
Mm-hmm.
She said, "Mark, we got some of these DNA tests. Why don't you do one? And let's find out what your ancestry
Sure.
is. It's kind of trendy, right?" And so
Yeah,
I was like, "Sure, let's do
23andMe
it."
or whatever. Yeah.
So I'm like, "Okay, let's do it." So, I did the test, and the results came back a few weeks later, and we looked at them, and not surprising, most of my heritage is Italian. There's a little bit from France. There's a little bit from a couple of Eastern European countries. And then there was 1% South American indigenous. I'm like, that's it.
You're like,
this
is my people.
Yeah, that's where the passion came from. The 1%. The 1%.
I'll take it.
Yeah,
I'm rolling this 1%. Yeah. So you're saying there's a chance.
Yeah, exactly.
That's great. Well, no, what a cool. I mean, that you just have a great story. I mean, you've lived I guess the first thing I said is it looks like you've been on some adventures, and you go, yep, that's true. You certainly, I had no idea what I was even saying then, but Yeah, it goes well beyond just Brazil, but that's just the cherry on top, and you love it.
I'm really grateful for what I've been able to do so far, and there's going to be more. So.
Yeah, for sure. Well, yeah, thanks for coming in, man. I mean, this is cool. I actually want to see this, but I guess we can't. Whenever
you can go see the trailer. The trailer is on the Brazil the Film Instagram page.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, how long will it be before, or you're like, it's going through the things right now, and we'll see how it ends up shaking out if someone buys it or whatever.
That's a possibility. Yeah. If no one, if no one bites,
it'll be on YouTube next year.
It will be on YouTube. That's probably what it will be.
Yeah.
But it has to go through the film festival circuit first because they want exclusivity. They won't accept it if it's been publicly shown. So we can't actually publicly show it. And I didn't know that, until getting into this world, so I'm learning a lot of stuff. So yeah, it will be available later this year is what we project, because I think the last film festival ends around November, something like that. And so, and maybe it will, be on a Netflix or PBS or Amazon Prime platform near you sometime.
So your album is just like on Spotify and all that?
It's on Spotify, it's on Apple Music, it's all the streaming platforms. If you go to my website, marktonellimusic.com, you'll see links that'll take you to all those places.
Well, I'll make sure I plug your page whenever this comes out, so people will be able to scan or click or whatever they want to do to get to you.
Perfect.
You never know. You never know. Someone might be like, "Hey, I love Brazil. Let me see what this guy's doing." You never know. You never know who's going to go to Brazil because of this interview.
Exactly. Hopefully, I've inspired somebody. Yeah.
Well, you might, whether you did it here or not. It seems like you've kind of made a life of inspiring people, young adults. That's the key, man. They're the ones who become old adults. I mean, right?
That's it.
Yeah, and I don't want to get off on this tangent, but that's what drives me crazy about our education system is kind of slacking, and overall, like for the, bigger cities and stuff like that. And I go, some shortcuts we can't take. Like these kids that were cruising through high school and just, graduating them so we can collect a check. Somebody's got to run our country one. Like you can't cut corners at surgery with children. Yeah.
I like that.
It is like, okay, we'll just see how it hashes out. But no. Well, yeah, again, I really appreciate your time. I think, thanks for just sharing your journey, man. That was just really neat. And congratulations on an amazing life. You've lived it. I mean, you're living it. So
I am. Yeah.
Yeah. So
right in the thick of it.
Good for you. It was really, it was a pleasure to chat with you.
Likewise. Thanks so much for having me.
All right, guys. Well, yeah, I'll plug his stuff. If you guys want to, matter of fact, we'll throw on a little, as soon as this closes out, we'll throw on a little piece of the music. So if you are like, hey, I like this stuff, you can hit him up, see what this album's about. You got anything else?
Like anything else coming up?
Anything you want to say? Anything that you necessarily want to plug or say, or any of that? Yeah, advice, anything, whatever you want.
No, we covered a lot of ground.
We did.
Yeah, I think we're good.
We did. All right, cool. All right, guys. Well, thanks for joining us on this episode. Again, smash that subscribe button right underneath this video. I'll see you guys in a week. Until then, be kind to each other. Thanks. Quick shout out to our partners, Dubby Energy, clean energy, no crash. Use code BeyondBiz at dubby.gg for 10% off. Oakwood Screen Printing, custom apparel done right, from small runs to big orders. And Midwest Lightning Rods, protecting homes and businesses from lightning strikes across the Midwest. Now let's go. Beyond Business.
Yo, we on business. Yo, we out here hitting that grind. Podcast vibes, letting loose, unwind. Nick's on the mic, yeah, he flexing with pride. Meeting dope souls, taking you on the ride. Talking about life, not just that paper. Doing it big, ain't no time for a hater. People yap behind his back, but we rise like the sun. Gather round, fam, we just having some fun. Beyond business, it's a vibe, feel that thrill, getting intimate. May even get your heart filled. Meeting the legends, those raw and real. Digging deep thoughts, show you how to feel. From the block to the boardroom, we making that move. Beyond business, baby, yeah, we got the groove. Shout out to the hustlers, the real street thugs. We all eat together, no need for the drugs. Yeah, you blessed with the gift, determined to thrive. Nick's breaking it down, keeping that fire alive. Let's go deep like the ocean, no bluff. Beyond business, baby, we can't get enough.